Good morning, Africa. Our proposal, resource transfer policy, was born out of need to have resources available to businesses, because it is common knowledge that the IPv4 resources have, is near exhaustion, and we know that the resources available would likely not exceed the next 4 months. As a matter of fact, data I see says that it's at 0.31%. And we know that the need for resources is growing exponentially because the trend of things in the future, definitely we'll have people moving around assigned to IP addresses. So we don't even have enough IP resources to sustain us in Africa. And Africa is not yet at that stage to migrate fully to IPv6. Thus, the need to have more IPv4 resources coming to the region. So our proposal presents a model, a mechanism to encourage smooth and ease in doing business, because these resources are not political statistics. They're actually tools which aid communications with people, businesses, and organizations. So it's essential. So this is a two-way inter-RIR policy, which encourages flow of resources both ways, both within and outside the AFRINIC region. So when these resources exhaust, we will not have a shortage. As a matter of fact, I think we're at the 11 o'clock. I don't know why this policy hasn't come up yet until we are at this stage. We are at looming crisis of resource shortage in Africa, and we should have this running immediately so that it doesn't frustrate businesses, because we don't have these resources and businesses must grow. Everyone knows Africa is an emerging market, and I think is at the forefront of emerging markets. We say have less than 50% internet penetration, and we know internet communication is at the drive of economic growth. So ease of doing business is clearly a catalyst for economic growth, and we are here to improve on Africa. So this policy is supposed to be a driving force, a catalyst to businesses growing. So as we go through, my co-author here is going to run through the slides, and we'll attempt to answer the questions and address anything. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Taiwo from Africa. I believe most people have read the CPM, so I'll just mention the changes and the updates we propose to the CPM. Currently, there's intra-area policy where resources can be transferred within the region. What we're proposing is resources to be able to be transferred within outside the region. For those resources to be transferred, we propose that the person initiating the transfer can be a registered member of any regional registry. And the transfer is going to be initiated with two parties willing to transfer. So there's a willing, resource holder ready to transfer the resources, and there's a resource holder ready to receive these resources. As long as those resources are not in dispute, and as long as it's the right owner is the right holder that's requesting the transfer of the resource. Sorry, I forgot to mention, there are some minor changes to the policy which has been discussed with the co-chairs and approved. So those changes are in the green here. So those changes are here. Oh, it's not really clear up here. So I'll just read them out. For the sender, that's for the person with the resources, we say you cannot transfer resources if you just receive the transfer. You have to have a cooldown period for 12 months. So that's what this is saying, which is what is currently on the CPM. Also, to get resources, you have to have a written agreement. So there has to be an agreement between the sender and the receiver of the resource. And where need basis are inevitable, you have to present 50%. That's here, 50% of your need for 5 years. Also, we propose a standard template which should be filled by the sender. So the sender fills the template provided by his region, which states the standard procedure for the transfer. So the recipients can be any party which is an agreement with. So a sender has to remember the receiver has to agree on those terms by the sender. Then legacy, the point on legacy remains as in the CPM. That's the new update as well, which says transferred IPv4 legacy resources will no longer be regarded as legacy resources. We also propose a procedure for the transfer of resources. Since this is not in the CPM, I will just read this out briefly and try to buttress on them a little. So the transferring party who holds the resources can initiate a transfer between itself and an external party. If both parties agree, the transferring party will send a request to the regional registry with the resources, which the resources are registered using the standard templates which I discussed earlier. And you submit the official agreement, which is the agreement by both parties, the sender and the receiver. This template is being reviewed by the region in which the resource is originating from, and if the review is done and approved, then the regional registry sends the templates to the receiving registry. Also informs the sender and the receiver that the review has been made and the resources are ready for transfer. So the regional registry that is receiving those resources gets the template, and once it has done its due diligence check, then the resources can be transferred. To monitor the transfers, this is also a discussion with other authors of similar policies. Once the resources are transferred, or once this policy is implemented, AFRINIC will post monthly updates of the frequency or statistics of resources being transferred or received. Yeah. Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Thank you very much. So we're going to go for the staff assessment.
Good morning, Madhvi Gokul, Member Services and Staff Liaison for the day. I'm here to present the staff impact assessment for this policy proposal. So we look at the policy proposals, try and understand the intent of the proposal, and then we look at how the proposal, where the proposal will impact on the internal processes and procedures, the consolidated policy manual as well, which is an internal document, AFRINIC systems, the WHOIS database, and sometimes legal as well. And yeah, so for this one, we understand that the policy enables a two-way inter-RIA transfer of IPv4 resources. And it shall start with a resource holder who submits a transfer request to another party and also provides an agreement of resource transfer signed by both parties. The source must be the rightful holder and not involved in any disputes. There are no limit to the size of the resources being transferred. The source can request for additional resources from AFRINIC at any time. So if they have resources from AFRINIC, they have transferred to another organization, they can come back to request for more IP addresses from AFRINIC at any time. So in the next hour, let's say, there's no hold down period basically. And the recipient of a transfer is not required to justify the IP needs. So this policy eliminates the justification of needs, and usually any resources allocated or assigned to the members are based on justified needs at the moment. So we'd like the authors to clarify, is the recipient of the transfers, if they are in the AFRINIC service region, are they required to be AFRINIC members?
They are.
So if a legacy resource holder is receiving resources through a transfer, they have to apply for membership. Okay, thank you. And yeah, So in the Consolidated Policy Manual, section 5.4.5, resources at the moment, okay, are being issued based on justified needs for the next 8 months. All right. And we've put the statement from 5.4.5 on the slides. Okay. So as staff, what staff tried to do was, if we're implementing the policy is being implemented, all right, and we'll have a transfer clause in the policy manual, okay, and these are the sections of the policy through which members or applicants will come and request for more resources, okay, and applicants will receive through section 5.4.5 and transfer out of, if you can transfer out of 5.7, I guess, right? Yeah, okay, out of this. Is this the intent? We just need a confirmation, because if an organization has became a member in July, for example, and they come to us and say, we'd like to transfer our resources according to this policy, the transfer policy, staff would immediately know that they qualified under the 8 months. Okay, so the 8 months is not over. So what is the intent of this policy? We'd like to have a clarification, because we sense there are two conflicting clauses, okay, and that can lead to somehow confusion, because the member will say, I can transfer according to this policy. Okay. All right, yeah. So, yep, the areas of impact. So we have our processes that have to be updated. The transfer log has to be, well, we envisage that inter-RIR transfers may become a reality. So a slight tweaks, we need to tweak the transfer log so that they support inter-RIR transfers. We have our transfer request dashboard and forms. We have our own procedures, but this policy is bringing in its own procedures on how to do things. So there is an impact that have to be taken into consideration there. And like I said, I tried to explain with a practical scenario, but based on the discussions that have been happening since yesterday as well, we'd rather avoid conflicts, okay, in the policy manual, or ambiguity in the policy manual, so that both staff who have to evaluate requests under the stipulations of the policy manual, whether they are for resources or transfers, they know exactly what, and the members as well, because when ambiguity, then sometimes the members feel they are right, okay, and they will actually challenge. So we'd rather have very formalized and very concise approach in the policy manual regarding the inter-RIR transfers. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's it.
This is working. Like I said yesterday, and like I always say, I am an advocate for ease of doing business. Now, the reality of policies is a policy would always give rise to adjustment in processes. You know, we are looking at a system that makes it easy for these transfers to happen. So yes, we proposed a procedure because we feel it's a better one, and definitely it would give rise to certain adjustments in other auxiliary parts of the CPM. So yes, we considered that.
Thank you very much. We will now open the floor to comments. We have a very long queue, so I would have to close the mic. I would have to close the mic. Yes, please, the mics are now closed. I will start from Jerry.
Good morning. As you know, I am out of another policy proposal on the same topic that has been ongoing in 1 year and a half. So it was before this policy proposal and before the other one. I am always saying it's good we have competing policy proposals. I am always also saying that if we can coordinate together, that's even better. And we tried that when this policy was posted in the list, and the other one, I got in touch with the authors. We have got some private discussions among us, trying to coordinate, trying to understand each other. Unfortunately, the other set of authors never responded. Those authors have been very cooperative. I must say I don't agree with their policy. All the points. I am especially. I have a special conflict with the saying that the staff mentioned of no need, no justification need. But that said, I believe this region need now a transfers policy. So I ask everyone to support one of the two policy proposals that can fulfill that. Why I say 2 instead of 3? Because the major donor of addresses to all the other regions is aiding. And aiding policy states that it must be reciprocal. And I believe that the only 2 reciprocal policies are this one and the one that I will present next. So even if I am now speaking somehow against my policy proposal because it's presented next to this one, I really think this community needs to move forward. And yes, there are things to resolve, but we have time to do it. Why? Because implementing this policy will take probably, including the ratification from the board, more than 6 months. I am guessing it will be at least 9 months. For example, is taking almost 1 year, and the effort and the work of coordination with the other registries is the same. So again, even if I am shooting on my own feet saying this, I think this region needs to move forward, and even if this policy is not perfect, we have time to improve it, but at least the staff can start implementing because that will go in our favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jody.
Let me address this.
We have authors. The problem is I have a feeling we're going to sleep here today.
Sorry, I think I addressed this to respond to so many things, but we have spoken.
The mic, okay.
An author of a similar, I spoke with you earlier, Jody, and yes, it's imperative that Africa has an inter-IRR policy, a two-way inter-IRR policy, and there is a reciprocity clause and policy that ARIN has, which says, only if you give me before I can give you. So now there is a school of thought or the pessimistic arm that says, why are we opening our doors? The resources will fly out of Africa and all that and all that. But the reality is here, we don't have resources anymore. And that obsoletes the need clause
because the reason why there's a need-based clause is to manage the resources. But the reality is there is no more resource. So why is there a need clause? We're in a situation where the markets would have to decide. It is need, demand, and supply. And now Africa needs resources. And regions like Erin, who have adopted IPv6, are easing off on their IPv4. So to say, they are recovering their IPv4s, and this will come to Africa. We have some slides that show, we have a little bit of a statistic that shows the movement of these resources. This is from NRO, and this was updated September of this year. So it's a very recent statistics. Now, if you look at, the movement of resources, you will see this is Erin, and they are moving 17.8 million as against this 134,000, and to RIPE they are giving 9.69 as against 550,000. So what is the worry about Africa that has just 3.94% of the available resources? Why are we afraid that they'll come and expunge this very tiny portion that Africa has? The truth is Africa never had so much, but this is the market. So why are we afraid that this 4% is going to drift into other regions? Where data and statistics shows that where the need is where it goes. They have all the corporations, they have all the services, and these resources are used for services.
Yes. Can we have the next question? The mic at the back, please.
Ok, c'est Kakel de la RDC.
I'm from DRC. I see these statistics, and the proposal of these policies seems to be very interesting, but we should evaluate the step forward of the different regions in order to have the stability in this transfer. At the level of AFRINIC, we protect the interest based on services for the community and move forward with the IPv4 addresses and to have instant resources. I would see that in near future we will not have enough spaces, so we need to have very good lessons. What did other regions to achieve this change or transfer of addresses and apply at a level of a region to have on with activities in our region?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Can we have the mic in front, please? If you can just lift them down. My name is Rosa from DRC. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to congratulate for this great effort I have followed up from the beginning until the end. Regarding this policy, is interesting and important for Africa. In different axles that I have retained. First is on the commercial opportunity and development of internet in Africa will really be benefic if the resources are transferred. Item number one. Number two, the facilities of transferring of the resources, I believe, will allow those ones that need to access easily without getting difficulties. I believe that is a very interesting policies. There are somehow equal transfers applied in different regions. Why Africa should really engage in this domain? Africa needs this policy for the development. level. Vamos pegar mais um. Please.
Bonjour à tous.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joshua from DRC. From group. I'd like just to comment on the policy proportion I support due to it makes the internet market more competitive and they have different opportunities. If other did registration, why not us? We can't use various numbers of addresses. This is a great opportunity to go for a transition of IPv6, which is more expected. I support this policy.
Just can you respond to that?
Okay, thank you. I think the last two speakers were basically buttressing our points and accepting that Africa needs it because we all know Africa needs it. For the question Kakel asked, it will benefit the region because, like I said, these resources are tools for services, they are tools for business. So by doing this, it encourages a business who wants to expand into the region to come in with its resources. And it also helps with making availability of resources easily available. So yeah, it will ease doing business, like I said, in Africa, and to make it easier to obtain resources at effective prices. So thank you.
Okay, the mic in front, please.
Good morning, I'm Alpha from Senegal. We are now speaking about management rules. It is not respecting the level of the policies. The mic is on. The mic is on in the podium. Thank you, sir. We are the regulators of resources in our country. I can't to allocate resources without regulations. We can't allow people exchanging resources among themselves without checking what we are doing. This is the best way to create a black market for this kind of resources. So this policy, despite of seems to be interesting, but should be reviewed. So again, currently the facilities just to justify saying that to facilitate the business, personally, I can't see how it to facilitate the business. I see a problem that we will raise, and there will be exchange among companies in different regions, and they will not have control of any authority or any organization dedicated by the organizations. As it is presented, we see that we need to take the resources of Africa and take it to transfer it abroad. We have to review this kind of policy and rewrite in order to be well detailed and clear, in order to be transparent or be stated in the references of transference.
Back, please.
Good morning. This is Ezebo from Goldspan, Nigeria. I want to say that I think you guys have come up with a very good policy, because in 2019, Africa is not involved in the transfer of IP addresses across all continents. Now, I have this problem with the rigidity of the business in Africa and where this rigidity has gotten us to. We are below 4%. 4%. 4% is a rough approximation of what we have. Now, I want to know why are we having this problem of implementing this? Because why will someone need to come into Africa and take away IP addresses when they have access on their underside? We are running out of IPv4 and others have access IPv4. Even if we want to switch to IPv6, we still need IPv4 to run it. I think the statistics you have shown here and how much Africa is cut off from the other continent shows we need to implement this. And the transfer is needed. Very, very important. We should know why we are standing here. Are we blocking the future? Or are we holding Africa back? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take one comment in front, then I'll allow others to respond.
Merci beaucoup. C'est Gaylor.
Thank you very much. I'm from DRC. I support this policy by giving the full justification. First, the objective of sustainable development is with the economic development of Africa. There are two important pillars: investment and partnership. In investment and partnership, we have to take into account the technology. We can work together in Africa, and we know that we are Africans. And we can work together with the name of developing our continent. And sometimes we feel that we don't work together, but I believe that this is a time for us to face and fight against everything that can stop us from developing. So we should support this policy by electorate, inform that we need more exploration to see how we can update and use this information for the benefit of Africa, because having the resources only for us, we'll be able to get other opportunities. We've got opportunity and some risk. We should not put that aside. We should not reject this policy, but we should find a way of managing this opportunity and manage the risk. And I want to conclude by saying that I support this policy, and I believe that our colleagues should also support. And if you support it, we become a competitive strategy in the business sector as well as in the world. Thank you very much.
Respond? Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start by responding to Alpha, although I didn't hear half of what he said, but I understand he was asking the questions of ease of doing business. He asked questions about identity. Okay, he talked about ease of doing business, and he talked about regulatory impact and all that, identity check. Now, in the proposal, we talked about, sorry, let me get to that slide. Sorry. Let's look at after transferring IRR has reviewed the application and deemed that that is appropriate to proceed with the transfer, it shall notify the receiving IRR, the transferring party, and the recipient. This is where the regulatory comes in, because you have to be a member, which is the person demanding and the person receiving have to be members. And after they have gone into that agreement, it has to be brought up here. So the RIRs are involved, so it's regulatory. But since the RIRs really don't have these resources anymore,
they can't really be the ones to come and sit and preside over it, because if I need resources, you could need resources in different ways. Let's say I am moving my business somewhere, or I'm having a merger, like the third person say, globalization, which means I'm merging or I'm doing business with a company, which requires me to move the resources. We have to agree within ourselves before we now come to the respective RIRs and tell them, okay, this is what we want to do, this I want to do the transfer, and the templates will be filled and the transfer will be done. So what we're saying is, for every transfer, we don't have to come to AFRINIC's door or come to any of the RIR's door and knock and say, oh, we want to do a transfer, and then they will go. It will bring a lot of strain to the process. And I will always say, I will always emphasize, I am an advocate for ease of doing business. Thank you.
Slowly.
Okay, I will speak slowly. Should I repeat myself? All right, thank you.
Okay, we are going to take the mic at the back, please.
Chair, please, I think I'm going to be a bit long, so because I beg. Okay, I beg. I want to be a bit long, and when I'll be talking, I would like AFRINIC staff to project the statistic of the IPv4 allocation. So if staff could get the statistic of the IPv4 allocations, we think we need. So I think we should play with a little bit with data. But before we get to the data, I want to respond to my brother who just said that the one who just spoke said that why are we holding Africa back? Africa is out of transfer. But I want to know, are people aware that we have an intra-area transfer policy at the moment? We have a transfer and people are able to move resources inside Africa. And this is the policy you are trying to amend. We already have a policy to allow people to transfer resources in Africa. So if you need the numbers, you can go and get from the other members in the region. Okay, we have this policy in place. So I want people to be aware of that. On the 75725, you said that you don't want the RIR in, then the two parties get agreement. Then you're saying that if the RIR review the applicants and deem, so how is the RIR going to determine that it is appropriate to proceed? Okay, can we have the statistic, the IPv4 allocation statistic, staff? Okay. Ashil? Okay, when staff is looking at it, can you show can you show the NRO statistic again, the one you showed? The NRO statistic, please.
It's disabled.
Staff to control.
Yeah, looking for your data.
Okay.
So I can't change the slides. Okay, but I can start addressing some of the things questions you asked. In our text, there's an area that says the resource party, which is the sending and the receiving party, must be registered members of the RIR. We also say that resources being transferred must be resources which are not in dispute. That is why you need the RIRs as part of it. And now the statistics you're looking for, I don't know which you are looking for, but Africa has like 0.3.
I know all these things, but you are saying that you want to ease, you say you are in the champions of easing business,
yeah.
But you just said that before you transfer number, you want to make sure that there's no dispute, and you want the RIR to make sure that the thing is appropriate. So I don't see what you are trying to simplify anyway. So now let's look at the statistic. This is the IPv4. The left side, this is the IPv4 allocation from AFRINIC. And you can see I hear people are saying that we have a exponential need. But you can see, like from 2016, the allocation have dropped. Look at the data there. Look at the data there. So apparently, it looks like there are some people who need numbers. They are not coming for the numbers right now, because AFRINIC is still in phase 1 of the soft landing, where AFRINIC is allocating a /13, unlimited /13. Those who need the numbers are not coming for the numbers with the statistic. But you're saying that there is a need, so Africa needs some numbers from outside. And if ARIN deploy IPv6, AFRINIC is going to give us IPv4. Guys, were you around? We've been discussing entire area transfer for the last 5 years. I think we need to visit the history and see. We've said that where we are now, AFRINIC still have some resources. We have intra-area transfer policy. Let's see how it goes, okay? And then AFRINIC still have numbers. The Jeff Houston prediction said that AFRINIC will start phase 2 in March next year. And when we are in the phase 2, AFRINIC can still allocate /22 unlimited. Okay, so where is the need? Why are we rushing, etc.? I say we should open. And my brother, he also said something. He said something. He said, Africa only have 4%. And why are we not allowing the people to give us numbers? We asked the global community. Africa was the late to come. Give us more number when we are doing the soft landing. They refuse. Now the same people are saying, before we give you V4, you must give us some. You must give us some before we give you. This is the deal. This is the deal. Give us some, but Africa only have 7/8 for the whole continent. They are saying, before we give you, you should give us some. So guys, let's think about it. But you see the statistic of allocations. Now, if we look at, I'm going to finish on this one. Go to the transfer on the NRO. Go to the transfer. The transfer. Wait. No. The transfer before. Total number. No, again. Previous one. No. Where is no. There is something missing. There is a statistic on the same document mentioning the intra, which clearly shows that there are more data moving inside the region than outside the region. And this statistic you shown, do you know since this started, the global community started the IPv4 transfer since 2011. So if from 2011 to 2019, this is what you are seeing. This is the number you are claiming. This 7.8, which is above 1/8, is the one which moved from ARIN to AP from 2011.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We move to the.
Let me address it.
Okay.
First and foremost, sir, this data is not from me. It's from the NRO. And I got all the slides, I referenced it. I did not remove any slide. That's number one. Before I go into your point, I want to ask, is there any data you have to show the growth potential of Africa? That's number one. Number two, why have other regions implemented this? Number three, you say we have enough resources to do us, and must Africa wait until the resource exhausts? AFRINIC staff here has told us what we have and how long it will take to exhaust, most likely. So I don't understand your point in that exactly. When the staff are telling us we are running out of this. And number four, I said it earlier, these things are not political statistics. These resources are tools. So these transfers are for business needs. If you choose to stick to intra-area transfer, you're encouraging this exact thing you're talking about, which is people hoarding resources, people making it hard to come by. And I don't know how you think you can recover it and make it get distributed evenly as needed. Thereby, you're making it difficult for people to come in, bring in their services to the region. So the data you're telling me and you're flaunting doesn't really do you well because you contradict yourself in them.
We'll go to the mic in front.
Let him respond.
I have to respond.
Okay.
So I said, and I'm going to repeat this, because you were claiming that there is an exponential huge need of numbers. Then we are looking at data. Then,
Coach, can you please switch off your microphone? Thank you.
I said, what is the need? What is the need? AFRINIC have IP address, but we've seen that the allocation rate has dropped. dropped in a period where we have announced that we are running out and people are not rushing to come to the pool to get the IP. So the issue is to show me where the need, where the exponential need is for now. And this one, I said, this is a statistic from 2011 till now.
Okay.
It's showing you that
I don't know if AFRINIC
the expectation of number moving is not as you guys are thinking.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to the mic in front.
Bonjour, Souali du Maroc. Et comme étant consultant en entreprise.
Good morning, I'm from Morocco. I'm a consultant and I believe that as an entrepreneur and consultant in the IT world, I participate in various international events. We speak about growth in the system, and I believe that there's a blockage with regard to this growth. And this blockage undermines the existence, be it in Morocco or in Europe. First of all, it has to do with legislation, the legal aspects, the hierarchy. Sometimes we can deal with these specific issues, but they undermine things to grow at regional level. And we speak about trying to have African companies that we want them to grow in order for them to do business. So, in other words, it undermines all the process. What we need is strategy of growth focused companies. Now we're speaking about Africa. Maybe the technology might develop so that we can have development. But how can we adapt this type of growth in future if at the moment Africa is an emerging continent, and how will it be in world leadership and a technological point of view? I believe that there's a blockage with some laws that undermines that specific growth at continental level and does not open the doors. We are trying to add value, but when we look at statistic data from 2011, the old statistic that we speak about exchange information about 70 million and other members of IP, the statistics is low, so I support these policies. Thank you very much. We move to the mic at the back.
Yeah, hello. My name is Afonso Dani, CEO Cloud Inspire and also Cloud Solution Architect working in France. And I just want to pinpoint a point. It's like the system of the 5 area are made on the need basis, isn't it? The system of the 5 area was built on the system of the need basis. So you need the resources and they give it to you, isn't it? And then we have a system now who is trying to help a company inside a system to be a kind of a small registry inside the registry. So we are breaking the model completely by the policy you are putting on the table. So are we going to break the model that we are using since before to regulate the resources we are giving, or are we going to come up with something to help the small companies to grow by going to their normal regional registry to get resources? So because this is the idea behind the system of registry. But what we are bringing now is breaking completely this rule. It's like now I can be a registry providing resources to another company. So we have registry inside registries. This is what I'm saying in your proposal. So if this is the way we are going, yeah, feel free to support it and we can agree on this new way of this new business model and we are going for it. But if not, I don't think that this one it can fit enough in this process. Thank you.
Can we have the mic in front, please?
From remote participation, and now Amelina from Togo. I would like the authors of this policy to tell us why AFRINIC, which only has 4% of internet resources distributed based on need, must leave these resources spoiled by the other regions, which they had received larger numbers than us. Thank you.
I'll still give time for remote participation so that we have all the comments. You can just still collect them. But can we have those on the mic so that we keep collecting on the remote? Then we'll do them after. We're going to have time for the remote participants after. Yes, thank you. Can we have the person on the mic in front, please?
Je m'appelle Trésor Chilumba, je suis de la RDC.
I'm Trésor Chilumba from the DRC. Everything that I'm seeing is Africa is always complaining about everything and complaining about nothing. Because up to now, the only argument that I've seen is that people want to move forward, but we've got few resources, and we don't want to take advantage of those resources. I support this policy because you see that we've got the few resources, but people don't want to use the resources. Because this attitude of being a victim of victimizing ourselves, because we always have the chance of saying we have a lot to lose. As distinguished colleagues, I would like to ask, we have to follow globalization, as we know, and nowadays we are moving into an open world where the regions at present we're not going to eliminate any borders, but we need to have a good collaboration between different regions. Nelson Mandela said, if you want to move faster, you have to walk along. If you want to go beyond, you have to move together. I don't know if you paid attention to this statistic that was presented. We spoke about Africa that has 3.5% in terms of resources. It's about 3.5%. And these are the results that are left. But we think that this 2.5% will be used by others who have over more 90% of resources to provide to us. So what I see is a way of hiding ourselves behind a principle of optimization. It's a thing that we've been debating about for years. I believe that Africa should open to the world and learn how to become more competitive than always using the system of protectionism and not saying that we have to protect what we have. I don't know why you are still going around this topic when we're at after 6 months, this 3.5% resources that we've left is about to exhaust. So if what the situation by tomorrow we have enough resources, it's time for us to allow the transfer of address between regions so that we can be mobilized and achieve one of the objectives of sustainable development goals. So I support these policies, but I believe that each participant in this conference room can support this policy and that will allow us to go and have more resources and reserve when our stock becomes exhausted. Thank you very much.
Can you respond now?
I'd like to say thank you to the last speaker. I wouldn't have said it better. Someone asked the question, why do I think Africa still needs more when we are not having so much demand and we're not utilizing the intra-IRR system that exists? But if AFRINIC anyway, I wouldn't want to bother the staff to show, but I can tell you for free that from 0.66% of what is allocated to Africa in 2018, we have gone half of what is left as of today. And as the day goes by, we become increasingly hungry for data and connectivity. Most people here have 2 devices, and at home, they have multiple devices connected to the internet. We're talking about Internet of Things, which Africa will eventually embrace in no short time because technology moves very quickly. To change my mic. Okay, so yes, there will be an increasing need for connectivity, for internet. In Africa, countries like DRC still have less than 15 or 18% internet connectivity. And basically, taking Egypt, Kenya, Egypt, Nigeria, and like 3, 4, 5 countries, most countries are less than 50% internet penetration. The majority of African countries are under 20%, which means there are people begging to be connected. So do we have to wait till we go into that crisis before we can come up to the table to request for a policy like this? What people are asking us to do is wall ourselves in, starve ourselves, and suffocate ourselves until we wake up one day and realize that we don't have these resources, because scarcity affects prices. So if you want to stimulate scarcity within the region, these resources will keep becoming increasingly hard to access and too pricey. So I believe that sorts that out. And for the person that was talking about creating micro or nano RIRs within the system, no RIR owns any resource. They administer these resources. So when the resources being administered exhaust, you can't come to I'm giving a hypothetical situation here. My father cannot come to my house and tell me how to cook a food I bought myself, because once these resources go to the owners, the system can only administer but not control how they are utilized. So trying to control these things creates unnecessary complexity. I don't want to repeat myself, but it goes against the principle of ease of doing business, which is a catalyst for growth. Thank you.
Hello. There was a question about small companies not gaining from the need base, if I'm right. Is that what you asked? I think small companies will actually gain more from the need base being eliminated, because if you check regions that have need base in their transfer policies or in their policies as well, they have a lot of stockpilers. But small companies at this time have bare resources to get what they want. So they get what they want and use it to do business. So I think it's opening the doors for small companies. And also regions like RIPE don't have need base, and you can see from the statistics that RIPE is also still getting way more than they're giving out. So I think the need base doesn't really have a negative effect on small companies. Rather, it helps small companies grow. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Can we have the mic at the back, please?
Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone. I'm from Morocco. I'm from architecture school, and I support this policy. The mic is on, gentlemen, the mic. And I salute this proposal. It was really well proposed in an intelligent way. Developing Africa doesn't mean an Africa closed by itself, but the history shows that we are in a critical situation and in need situation. So Africa has a minority in terms of resources. The presentation on statistics, numbers and graphs, we are in the needs according to all regions, and some regions are a little bit advanced and some other less developed, it is seen in bare eyes. So there is an openness to word in Africa needed. Then the freedom in transferring resources and addresses has a favorable impacting trade environment in Africa. If we want to see Africa developing, we have to see this policy, but we have to see the development. We are back. We are very, very late. So this is the solutions, and I support the policy. Front, please.
My name is Valerie Yeager from Kenya. I'm from the University of Nairobi School of Law. I tend to struggle with this policy, especially in terms of regulation, just like my brother Alpha said. You see, when you say that there will be elimination of the need basis and you're talking about businesses agreeing amongst each other without the use of the RIR, that opens up the question of regulation. It opens up the question of control. Who then knows what is happening? And also, you mentioned about there will be no limit to the size of resources being transferred both ways. My question is, does this really satisfy the service to Africa, or does it satisfy the highest bidder, the person who can pay more? Are you really serving Africa? Is it sustainable for us to have this policy? Thank you.
We'll take the mic at the back, please.
Thank you, Chair. My first statement is to ask you to discipline somebody for me. I remember one of the first speakers attempted to bias community working group's mind against one of the three proposals. In my opinion, that is not healthy for this community. It is outright divisive, and we are working hard to try and unite. So if you want someone to support your policy, say so. But to say, don't do for the other, to me, is not in good taste. Now I come to the policy of my family here. We all support transfer policies, but I am not sure about this one. And the reasons are the following. When I read the problem statement, it's not clear how the current process hinders the smooth business operation. It's not been established. Okay. The problem statement says aims to establish an efficient and business-friendly mechanism to allow normal resources to be transferred, etc., etc. What we want to be efficient with, in my opinion, is network operation. So you are supposed to do your business based on the network operation. So don't bring your problem to me. I'm saying my problem is to give you the resources so you can do your business. So when you start saying I should do my things for the work you are supposed to do, I have my own challenges. Okay, so let's bear that in mind. LRRs do not own the resources. Let's get it straight. Okay? The resources are held in trust by the IRRs for the entire Africa, our network development. So to begin to think that LRRs own the resource and so they can transfer, they can do this, is the wrong direction. Wrong direction. If you don't need a resource, bring it back to AFRINIC. If somebody else wants it, that person can get it, if he can demonstrate the need. A lot of the arguments I heard, because you are talking at a very high level business, tend to become speculative. Okay, it's high level business. Well, I want to talk about network operation, how your numbers are being used, how your network is growing. I don't want to talk about your business, okay? I want to talk about how your network is growing. Let's also be careful here. You said reciprocal. That's not the only thing. And compatible need basis in the transfers is compatible need basis. Okay? So when you read the transfer policies of these other IRRs, pay attention to that. It's not as simple as reciprocal, okay, but it's also compatible need-based policies, okay? So if you begin to remove those things, you may think you're reciprocal, but you are not. Now, let me give you another thing about the reciprocal. All of the IRRs hold back some resources. All of them, if you go and look, there are some things reserved which are not transferred. Okay? So there's nothing wrong if somebody says that a portion of the numbers are not being transferred either. I mean, think about it. Maybe theirs is slash, you know, some small slash. Okay, but yours, because you have, you know, small number of numbers, your slash is slightly bigger. Fine. But it's not like everything can move. It's never like that. Go and read all of those policies, you'll see. The last comment I like to make is that we have an intra-IR policy. That is what you are trying to amend. It would have been much better, because it's a new issue, okay, for you to write a fresh policy than to be amending the existing intra-IR policy, because inter is significantly different. So I would have preferred that you derive a fresh, you know, inter policy than to be amending the existing one. And that would be the advice I will give you. Please, this no holdback period and any limit and any number of times sounds deadly. It means I can form a company, come transfer, come transfer, come transfer. That means I'm running a leasing business. And there's nothing that slows you down also. So if there's the nature of the business, within 24 hours, I can come and take everything out, because you're weakening need basis. You're not putting a limit on how many times I can come. You're not putting, you know, it's challenging, you know. Anyway, good luck.
Thank you very much. Do you want to?
Good day, everyone. Talking about the points raised by the fellow from Senegal, there's from Kenya, Senegal, Kenya, from Africa. So talking about the points raised by the fellow from Africa, there's moderation by the IRR in the policy proposed, because we said after the argument is made, the argument is sent to the IRR, who does this diligence check. Also, if there's no check, then a clerical staff from a big company can just come and transfer his resources to me. So the IRRs also check if that's the rightful holder of the resources. So the IRRs are fully involved and they moderate what's going on. Also, you said resources are going to leave Africa. I doubt that, because the statistics shown here shows that resources are actually leaving ARIN for every other place, because ARIN has a chunk of those resources. And those resources will come to Africa, because Africa had about 3.9% as at inception. So the remaining 96.1% are in other regions. So statistically, and some evidence shown, those resources will come to Africa. There was a comment by the grandfather of AFRINIC, sir. He said that this doesn't show compatibility with ARIN from RIPE. I think there's a similar policy in RIPE, and the pass compatibility. So I think this policy also passes compatibility, because there's a policy like this already being implemented in RIPE. Then there's a 12-month hold period. So there's no you can come, go, come, go, come, go. There's a 12-month hold period. It's in the policy as well, in the proposal as well. So I might have missed some points, I guess.
To my sister from Kenya, Mwambo. Good. You asked if this policy serves Africa. If you look back at this, you find out that Africa's plate is empty. Africa needs to be served. You know, so we are looking at a policy that will put Africa in a strategic position, because we are playing ourselves out of position. So yes, it serves Africa because it encourages business inflow.
If you look at this data again, you find out that AFRINIC and ARIN are like technological hubs. So the users of these resources are predominant in this area, and you can see how resources go across them. They have the highest share of it, 17.8%. That is growth, that is exchange. Now you have the Googles, the Facebook, the Amazons, the Alibaba and Co. That is it there. You know, so I think that sorts that. Professor, I just want to cite some things. You said the problem statement is an issue. I'm an engineer and an IT person, so I wouldn't say I'm an expert in literature, but I believe the text in the proposal solves that problem. So he talked about these resources being used to run networks, but networks are run for a purpose, and that purpose is business and communication. So a policy that facilitates ease in these things is what we need. So it's not about efficiency of these networks. When you talk about justification, I want to give an example of a business like Uber walks up to you and tells you they want to start a taxi company and they have no cars. It is hard to justify that. It looks like it's confusing. So justification is quite logical. It's quite logical, quite relative, sorry, because a very fantastic business idea, if I come and tell you an idea, I understand it immediately, know that it's not foolproof. So certain entities that have come out to be disruptive forces in the tech space nowadays are ideas that appeared complex. So that way I come with a fine idea like an Uber, and because you don't understand it, it's not justifiable and it knocks it off. So in an open market system, it encourages understanding, because I need these resources and I go to you and I tell you I need these resources and we have an agreement, and then we reference the RIRs to straighten this out. So I believe that sorts that out. Does Africa have a reserve like other RIRs? AFRINIC can answer that. And if we don't have a reserve, I don't think I have an answer to that, because we need to know why don't we have a reserve. So the question is not for me to answer, it's for the staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are running short of time. We're supposed to be on the second policy by now, and we're still on the first policy, and the queue is still good. Please, I need your help. Is there anybody that has something different from what has already been said this morning that wants to say that I'm still at the mic? Okay. The problem is we're running short of time. Okay, what we can do is I can give everybody 30 seconds to say what you want to say. And the authors will respond after. Yes, go on.
Yeah.
Point of order. Okay. Excuse me, I would like to have a point of order, please. I raised this issue yesterday about we have 3 policies to discuss, and the 3 are about the same issue. Sorry. I'm Maimouna Diop from Senegal, and you told me you have to follow the program. Then please, we are on the discussion.
We are trying to follow the program, and that is why we have to follow the timing. So what we're going to do is I will have to do this at giving some discussions, and we have to probably stick to the 30 seconds. Thank you. The microphone, then we'll take all the questions, then the authors will respond after.
My name is Chris from Nigeria National Assembly. I looked through the policy, and I want to first of all congratulate the 2 young men at the front who came up with this smart and intelligent policy. Yes, I call it smart and intelligent policy because I am seeing another dimension which you didn't really bring close to the people. When we are being scared of giving out our resources to other regions, stating that we already have intra and inter is not permitted, or no policy should come up to address that, beginning to get concerned whether we are afraid of competition as Africans, or we are trying to hold back on what we have. Probably we don't have much counter argument to stop. Yes, it's, so many people, of course, everybody has his own opinion and his own concern and his own view, because you talk sometimes based on your own perception or your own thinking about an issue. But I'm looking at this as an opportunity for we to step up our games in terms of competition. We step up our games in terms of business. Now, look at this. I'm from this region, and tomorrow I relocate to another region. And I'm getting it difficult to get resources there. Is this policy not a way forward to solve my problem? That's a way forward. So remember, I'm an African, I'm in that region, and I'm finding it difficult to get resources. I should talk to someone I know that has resources in the region to assist me with that. And in that case, the ease of doing business is fantastic. So I want us to look at this as a business model, not just trying to make money by selling resources, but empowering ourselves, whether within or without. Thank you so much.
Thank you. To the mic at the back.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You have truncated all our questions, so let me go direct to the point instead of my questions. I would like to respond briefly with Alan's issues about needs. I can see that there's so much potential on this proposal since there's so much interest from the community. But the needs keep occurring, okay? And the question I would have asked was, what will be the projection of our resources in the next 12 months? Okay, do we still have enough addresses in our pool to accommodate the growth, the needs in the next 5 years, as an example? So there's no doubt we need to improve to create flexibility in terms of our policy, so as we can be able to have more of our populace connected. We know ICT is definitely going to be the catalyst for sustainable development goal, and we are really lagging behind. So, but I will leave most of my comments. I will engage him later, and I will post it on the mailing list. But the fundamental question is, what is going to be our projection in terms of the available resources we have in the next 12 months? Then the question of whether we need it or we don't need it will now arise. Thank you.
Very much. We'll take the mic in front.
Okay, Luca from Nigeria. There is this particular saying that you are supposed to make friends with the owner of a ferry before the rainy season, because rainy season, water overflows, you can't cross. So if we do not take these actions now, we would rather react to the need for this IPv4 when it comes. Because if we say we have to wait, that means you have to allow the sickness to kill you before you go to hospital. You're already dead. We have to take the actions now. Jody says something and I agree with him. Either way, we need an inter-IRR transfer. Simple. Then secondly, you talked about, people kept on repeating need-based assessment. Now, need-based assessment, when it comes to efficiency, that's, you are talking about forces of demand and supply. It doesn't rest with individual. It rests with that invisible hand that determines who gets what and how. If you do that, the need-based now shifts from AFRINIC to that invisible hand that does not respect the individual. It's not subjective, rather objective. So I believe that the need-based is just shifting from AFRINIC from all the registries rather to a hand that determines how resources are allocated efficiently. So with that, with this proposal, thank you.
Mike at the back, please.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Daniel from Nigeria. I just want to establish one thing, which all of us have agreed, that we are going to run out of our resources. And I'm happy that definitely we will not be that foolish not to have something reserved that we cannot give out for whatever reasons, because there will be a crisis situation that reserve will be used. Because when I was growing up with my grandfather, we don't eat up everything before the next harvest. There's always a reserve that just in case the harvest is not too good. So in that basis, my projection or my look is beyond the point of what we have now, which has not been allocated. I'm looking at the point at when everything is gone except the reserve. And I'm happy to know that that point is very, very close. And preparing for that point is what I see this proposal looking at. Preparing to be at the point that, okay, I have given out all that I have, and all that I have is reserved, and I can't give that out. And then somebody is moving into my domain, and I told him, if you are coming, please, I don't have enough food. Come with your food. But then the people, the country where he's coming from, so I'm tidying up, the country he's coming from said, well, where you're going, they don't allow food to come from their own place. So I won't allow you to take your own food along. That is what I'm saying, because we are so much in need of FDI, that's foreign direct investment, in most of the, because that's what you hear our leaders talking every day, FDI, FDI. So if a investment is coming and is coming with his own IP, and the policy says you can't move with your own property into that place, then you find out that you lost out on that business. Thank you.
Microphone, please.
Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Laurent Tumba from DRC. If you allow me, according to the participation, I see the participation is whole, and I am very astonished to see that the African community, which has few resources, is saying that the selling or trying to making the limited transfer of resources will grow in our business. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. The globalization, I have heard about globalization, but I say that my country, DRC, has resources exploited by mercenary. I think that the current policy of transference, which works that you bring to us here, it is also valid, but I do not see any reason that should change the regulations and be full open. The exchange among continents. We see the current situation between China and the US are the powerful forces. I do not understand. In spite of discussing about development of connectivities and growing in terms of connectivities, we are discussing how to facilitate transferring our resources which are scarce. We have to be shame of us. Those that defend these positions, if we globalize and we develop, it is not possible. The transfer between Africa do exist, but let's start by transferring resources among us African and move on. IPv6, while when Africa is going to enter IPv6, sorry, co-chair, this is important. So we do not have infrastructure. You cut my word, but today I have to speak. Sorry about that. Africa need resources. In my country, DRC, the connectivity is really very limited, weak. When the SP chairperson, why don't we develop? Because we do not have infrastructures. And AFRINIC is coming to tell us that the resources are not enough. We do not have resources. China, Japan, please let's keep in Africa and sharing among us. And then we'll see if we need to have some surplus. We need to grow. The current regulation is valid, can really support, but I beg that these regulations is destroying our resources. Tell us how 3% that we have, it is important that Africa can decide to sell these fuels 3%. Please. Please, when I do this, my name is, your time is up.
Thank you very much. One thing that I realized that we have a snake in our midst, and this snake is on our foot, and we are trying to shoot the snake, which with the on our foot, and our foot is in the mouth. I am so much not in support of this policy because of a few reasons. One, we are forgetting the history of the formation of AFRINIC. These resources were picked from different pools to allow the network growth within the Africa region. And we have not yet achieved an effective network within Africa region. And here comes, we want to transfer our little resources to the other regions. Why can't we leave Africa to organically grow, both in its network infrastructure, in its development? Our co-authors have done a very good research regarding to building businesses and how sustainable are these businesses. But according to my little knowledge of business, if we have resources that are in the region, let's use the resources that are in the region. If someone wants to come and increase the resources in the region, there should be preconditions. One, does the region have the resources that we need to be able to improve our businesses? Yes. Then let's go and utilize the resources that are in the region and not come with our resources. And here comes, if we are coming with our resources, the condition should be the region has no resources to enable our businesses to grow. So we come up with new investment opportunities. So right now, Africa is not ready for investment opportunities to bring resources from out of the region, but we can fully maximize the resources within the Africa region to be able to flourish our growth. Maybe they transfer to Africa, but not from Africa, because we have like approximately 7. Another region has 40, another region has 100, and so forth. You'll discover that out of all this, what Africa has is just a little bit, a pinch of what is in the reserve space of the other resources. So why should we kill our reserve space, or why should we pass the policy that is going to destroy our reserve space, whereby once the need comes, we are not going to be able to achieve it? Here, probably you have to think about switching the word. Instead of need, it is a want. Because a want is something you just want it for luxury. Excuse me, just one more minute. We just wants are just simply luxuries. Right now, we're looking at the need of these resources in the dignity transformation and the dignity growth for Africa region. And then, not to come with the resources, let's fully utilize and get the margins. And I'll ask probably the AFRINIC staff if they can be able to project for us how the allocation blocks of inter-RIR, you have the intra-RIR transfer policy, have they been effectively been used? If yes, in case the intra-RIR hasn't been effective, then what can be done? I think this policy is a snake on our foot that we are going to shoot ourselves in, and we die. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. We hope we are not going to die. We'll take the mic in front.
Hi. Hello, hi. My name is Mohammed Redmond from Nigeria. When you look at these regional internet registries, actually the last one to evolve is AFRINIC, and it has the smallest resources. And if you look at the movement of all the IP blocks, what do you think is the reason for this movement? I want to ask you, what's the reason, please, for this movement? You can see that almost everything is coming from ARIN to RIPE NCC to an APNIC. What is the reason?
Okay, I can tell you this. IP resources move with respect to need in terms of business. So a lot of businesses from the ARIN region has gone global. This is globalization. So if you are going
I can assure you, stop from that. Okay. You are not right. You are not correct. They are moving because of economy of scale, because the prices are cheaper. Right? NCC is cheaper, AFRINIC is cheaper, they are moving. And some of them are moving because of the legacy IP addresses that we are allocated to individuals that have huge blocks, and therefore they are selling it to those regions because they need it. And that's why you see this movement. We are proposing a policy. There is unintended consequences and unintended consequences of these policies. What happens if we take a policy and we open up and every single resource move out of AFRINIC because it's more expensive than RIPE NCC? What mitigation technique do you have to stop that? Because you see, my major worry is that AFRINIC is doing so much within the African continent and more awareness. I am running the Internet Exchange Point of Nigeria, and I have presence in almost every single geopolitical zone in Nigeria. I can authoritatively tell you that there's a city called Kano that has 20 million people. Out of those 20 million people, there are only right now 2 ASN numbers. One is one ISP, the second one is another small organization that is trying to evolve. Why are Africans not using ASN and IP address? Because they lack awareness. Why are we still not going to school? Why are we still not being educated? Because people perceive that there is no need for that. And that is my major concern. I am from Nigeria and I saw so many Nigerians here. Unfortunately, I don't know any of you. I run the largest network in Nigeria. I interconnect everyone. I am also running the registry of Nigeria.ng. I'm the president. I don't know you, and I don't know any one of you. I don't know why all my members, MTN and the rest, are not here. You are here. Do you have membership of the exchange point? Are you connected to the exchange point? You see, the issue is we have to be really careful why some people are coming here to promote policies that will really create disruption. Thank you.
Merci pour la parole. C'est Nico Chintou de la République démocratique du Congo. J'appuie l'intervention de tout à l'heure parce que...
Thank you very much for the intervention. In DRC, I work with internet suppliers and I'm encouraging suppliers of content at local level. I would like to say that the proposal as it is bad. We need to announce that proposal. It is dangerous for the future of Africa. Africa has few resources. We have resources and we are likely to grow compared to other continents. I believe that we need to grow. But they're trying in a simple way to make a proposal to transfer resources to other regions of Africa. But tomorrow, when the request from Africa becomes intensive, are we going to use access to of the resources across some regions as private companies? So some companies, they can get our resources and break the laws. So be Africans and be aware of what's happening nowadays. One of the game that you're trying to play, I would like to advise you to remove that proposal and let Africa grow at their own pace. At their own pace. When we reach other people's level, that's when we speak about development. Some of my colleagues before us, they spoke about resources. What of resources are we talking about? Everybody has resources. But the market registration of some request on how they manage, you know, to manage it. Do you know it academically, but don't have practical knowledge. So we need our resources. We need our resources. When our resources become exhausted, we are going to see how we are going to measure exchange with others. These resources belong to us. Leave us alone and put aside that proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Morning.
Okay.
My name is Maïmoun Najop. I'm from Senegal.
Not coming.
I would like to thank you to give me this opportunity to talk about this policy. Jody, you have your headphones, please. So I will speak in French after. So you will need your headphone. I know you understand French. Right? My first point with Jordi. If you agree with, if you support this policy, perhaps you will be able to switch your proposal with this policy and give the opportunity to the third policy to make his presentation and be discussed. It was what I understand at your statement this morning. Now I will speak in French because I would like everyone to be aware of what is transfert. Le transfert se produit.
The transfer is done when there's IP address, and this number is transferred in a legal source where there's a destination to another legal destination. Here we have the source as a destination. As you can see, after different explanations that we listened to in the morning, Africa is policies to make this transfer effective. We don't reject a request. So the question is, yesterday we saw a policy that was proposed by Jordi on the distribution of IS number, and you said that when the staff receive a request, there's a part of the request that is rejected, and so that you don't reject any request, we need to deal with that request. I've been dealing or been using internet for many years. The way our resources are located, they are located in a database whereby the request should be justified. Why is that? We don't have, I don't support this policy. I believe it should be annulled, should also ask what we wanted before is not to have a first way to follow, and the way it is established won't have any positive results. So I believe that these results, I would like that whenever we implement this resource, it to be, I would like my children in future to benefit from the resources. You spoke about the business opportunities. I'm using, I'm aware for a lot of startup. It could be good for business, you said. Some they're not member of AFRINIC, and they're not interested to become members of AFRINIC. Contrary to that, there won't be any business with this type of policy. From the beginning, in the morning, you give opportunity for people to talk. In my country, there's democracy. When you give the floor to a member and you don't allow the member to speak his mind, that's not fair. You not tell us to speak or to give our comment according to a specific time. You don't tell us to speak for 5 or 10 minutes. Please let me speak, or you state the time that we're supposed to speak. If you have to speak for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's okay. It's not because you're co-chair, it's not because that you're co-chair that should let us talk. Not give us specific time to speak.
Please be clear with your rule. 4 minutes is 4 minutes, and everyone has 4 minutes, not more. Please, Chair. Let me just conclude. AFRINIC a une politique de transfert. Mais cette politique doit répondre à des critères.
There are criteria that was defined by AFRINIC. We cannot do things as we like. We need to stop with this drama. there are people behind us who want to speak, and I'm an open person. Lou worked a lot on the transfer, and I believe that when we look at the room, we are not hypocrites. We are giving our comments, we are arguing, but I believe that we should work in a civilized manner for the Union of Africa. We're in the same boat. When we fall, everyone will fall at the same time in the water. Let's talk about the important issue. The unit of the continent is necessary. The continent has to move forward in unity and together. We have to look at our interests. We have to work for the African vision. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Honestly, please and please and please, I totally respect Madam Memuna. I give her total respect. She's somebody I have to give my respect to. But please, I don't have a choice. If not, I will tell the CEO, cancel the lunch because we're going to be in this room.
Bon, merci beaucoup, Président. Je m'appelle.
Thank you, Coach. I'm Alpha from DRC. To start, I would like to thank the authors of this proposal. Contrary to others, I'd like to give my point of view. And contrary to the regulating authority of Nigeria and others, I believe that since AFRINIC is a community, and as soon as someone has an idea, you can support this proposal or not. Maybe some of the colleagues are not known. The reason why some people are not supporting AFRINIC. I have nothing against this proposal because in a globalized world, and we exchange point of view, exchange ideas, and we also speak about proposal based on the need of creating business. I embrace the idea of this proposal. So when you speak about interchange, about IP, I'm putting myself as a business person. Now, with regard to this proposal, let's say with this policy, I'm going to buy all the address available as organization, for example. I'd like to apologize, Chair. Give me 2 more minutes. The danger is that
yesterday I was here. I've not had. So you thought you hadn't given me so the go for speaking. So let me speaking if it's possible. Donc, alors, le danger c'est quoi?
The danger is that an organization can have a monopoly and putting my question is, what are the necessary measures to be taken so that there's no danger? So this IP address should be available according to the need of the community. I believe that it's good for us to have an exchange, but should protect the integrity and privacy of the community.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Zarou Mohamedou de l'AMRTP du Mali, le régulateur.
I'm Mamadou from Mali. I'm against this proposal because I believe that it's not necessary. Africa is the only region that has IPv4 resources available. If members of AFRINIC that have more address, if there's a need, each one can benefit from it. But if we allow each one to have IP address, we are going to create an African address. That's not it's not the case. You could have a general coordinator. I'd like to say, if transfer in region is possible, why don't we do inter-African transfer? Reason why the intercontinental area of exchange of data is important, and IPv4 can lead us to IPv6. I don't agree because we should have our own resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We take the mic at the back.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariam Sulaiman from University of Ilorin, Nigeria. So I'm going to keep this short and simple since we're already running out of time. So I'm in support of this policy because I see no need for needs assessment when there is a seller that is willing to sell and there's a buyer willing to buy. So the two parties should come, and I want to sell, you want to buy, and there's no dispute. So I believe you can go on with the transfer. And then I think this policy will also enable growth of internet in Africa, as we are still lagging behind. And I think we Africans need to be open. We're open to the world and stop being afraid. And this policy will also enable effective utilization. So that's why I'm in support of this policy. Thank you.
Can we take the mic in front, please? You've got how long? 1 minute? Yes, 1 minute. Okay.
Ok, professeur Fiamma de la République démocratique du Congo.
I'm from DRC. Thank you for giving me the floor. I'd like to thank thank you. It was difficult for me to get the floor yesterday. The topic was hot. The colleagues before me, they are two authors, and we should support them and congratulate them. I would like to speak about your work. I'm a lecturer, and that allows me to understand what you did. Don't feel intimidated by authorities of your country or the world. Don't feel intimidated. The reason why sometimes it's difficult for people to appreciate the work that you did. This question has two specific axes. We're in the axis of logic and defend Africa. That suffers Africa, that's the victim of every nation. Or we should be pragmatic and look at the real world, that's the globalized world. We should exchange ideas, yes. The facts are here, and we are here to be more open. The thing is that we only have 3.5% of resources left. So will our participation be the same? Why are we refusing resources? I understood that we should exchange resources between us as Africans. That's an ideology. But what type of participation are we going to have for the future? So we should refuse WhatsApp, Facebook, we should reject everything. But when we are speaking about added value, it's something that people don't support. In DRC, they are stealing our resources, for example. They are stealing our resources, and they're exploiting resources because our resources are necessary for mobile phones and other instruments. So I believe that we should work hard so that our participation is well used by us. We have few resources. No, we don't have few resources. That's not true. I would like to inform by saying that the chair here doesn't give us the floor. Yesterday we didn't even leave me till time. We've got an idea, those who understood that we should move forward. Some believe that should be pragmatic. The fact you've got the fact present here, we've got resources to protect. By asking the same question, yes, we need infrastructure. So who is going to give us the infrastructure? We need apps and internet. The other people are the one who are going to give us. There's hypocrisy when you are rejecting something, when you cannot share it. I know that an African country can also manufacture this infrastructure. An African country can give us something, or can manufacture something equal to Facebook. We should be pragmatic, and we should make a balance of both issues. Thank you very much. I'm against this proposal. I'm against this proposal because if you have to go back, AFRINIC was the last organization to register. And we know that it was difficult at the time to get numbers to manage our network at the beginning. Currently, we've got everything built. I'm not seeing the need of moving in a quick pace. I believe that we should develop well our African ecosystem. Even the companies, the international companies wishing to develop or sell something for Africa, sometimes they're not able to do that because in the continent they don't manufacture the resources, but they receive their IP inside their continent, and part of the economy also remains in the continent. I believe that we have a lot of Africans who do not defend African interests. The Africans working at the companies, and it's true that they should defend the interest that has nothing to do with Africa. And also they don't live in Africa anyway. They be living abroad, they have their life abroad, so they're not concerned about Africa. So, but us who live here in Africa, we should make sure that we consolidate and we develop our ecosystem the same way other continents have been doing it, and other nations have been doing it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Can we take the remote now, please?
Yes. Okay. Question and comment from remote. We have so put on your headset. We have many French comments. Fruimende Boruto from Mugano Hub, DRC Congo. Je suis d'avis que les ressources destinées à l'Afrique doivent rester en Afrique.
You stated that the resources should remain in Africa, making sure that our resources should not go abroad. My question is, what is AFRINIC doing on topics such as resources in the process of IPv4 transition and IPv6, and how can we benefit from them? The colleague from Togo stated that we cannot accept this policy. We have our university that's stopping the movement of these resources. I'm intrigued when I listen to people speaking about making money when AFRINIC is a non-profitable organization. Is a non-profitable organization. So if you are aware about the importance of this transition, about this internet transfer, we need to continue supporting this policy. My colleague from Cote d'Ivoire said that he does not support this policy because he knows that members of AFRINIC has a lot of resources that they would like to have transfer to RIN. And for the transaction, for the transfer, we like to transfer to happen without RIR permission. It to be illegal business. The business should be done here in Africa, so that this proposal is a bad policy for Africa. The African resources should remain in Africa. Thank you. Pascal from Madagascar. He said that the transfer
to apply the policy used by the other areas. My question is, what is your true opinion for the adoption of the policy? Because actually the resource in AFRINIC is insufficient. It's not that other areas use a policy that AFRINIC has to follow the same policy. And on YouTube, the remote on YouTube, item. Do you know when did the other areas have transfer policies? What is it? Is it before or after they round out IPv4? Thank you.
Authors, I will give you 2 minutes to respond, please.
All right, thank you very much. A lot has been said, but I want to respond to one thing, starting from what you said, reference to what the professor from DRC said. One thing I'm very used to, and I want every young person here to pay attention. I'm a budding business person, and I can tell you I'm used to being rejected and stamped on. It's a trend in Africa. That is why in the African system, you see our growth is not anywhere near its potential because we are generally afraid of taking steps. We are generally afraid to dare. And globally, business are disruptive ideas from young people who see a system that is no more relevant with respect to its time. So there is fear. What I say is a conservative mindset and a pessimistic ideology. The truth remains that this is long overdue. If the resources in Africa is sufficient, we won't be here saying that we've exhausted over 70% of the minute quantity that was allotted to Africa. That is number one. And number two, if you look at technological growth between 2012 and 2019, you would agree with me that technology keeps coming into our everyday life. Take Kenya, take Rwanda, take Nigeria. You can see it gets in, technology comes into everything we do, every process we do, every business is going global. Now, for people who say we should maintain the intra, if it was the big corporation, sir, you asked me why MTN is not here, why other big networks are not here, and why you don't know any of us. The reason is that we are nobody. We are who Mark Zuckerberg was before he started Facebook. We are who Larry Page and his partner was before he started Google. So I cannot stand here being somebody until I start doing stuff, you know? And until someday when my ideas, my businesses become global, then you can say, oh yeah, I know that guy, he's been there. So this is me climbing that ladder. That's number one. I started my company, we were 4 partners, and due to difficulties,
these are the difficulties we had in the system that is so resistive of change. 3 of my partners have left to foreign countries to set up themselves because it's an environment that enables them. Okay, so back to these resources, I didn't really see any truly structured argument against this because it is glaring. The region needs it. Look at Dubai. Dubai is a country that is in a place which is traditionally conservative, just like Africa, until someone came and said, let us open our doors and accept a system, a working system. Ideas came in, infrastructure came in, and Dubai is a destination. So now Africa, need for resources keep growing. And if you look at the graph, I wish the graph was open here to see how like this. Now, a small business who wants to get resource from the IR policy would have to tackle the need base, which means you need to invest a lot of money getting policy experts to understand the policy, create a justification, and come and stand in front of someone who doesn't understand or may not understand the need for that. And you just see yourself being the door thrown shut in your face all the time. I think we should be more open-minded, try and understand this, because we are at the end of a cliff, and if we don't put a beam to cross that cliff, someday we are going to come back here and be looking for mitigating policies, which I think the intra is not. It doesn't mitigate the looming crisis of resource scarcity. I don't know if you have anything to add to this.
I think most of the points here have been addressed.
Sorry, in 30 seconds.
I'd just like to introduce myself to Professor Dr. Chief Mohammed Rudman. I am Taiwo Oyewande from Africa. I work in Federal University Nigeria, a leading university in Nigeria. I'm a network administrator. I'm a PhD candidate in research on internet globalization. I will encourage you to get to know me because I am the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, honestly, please, I totally respect you so much, but please, we have to move on. We have to move to the next item of the agenda. One second. Okay, we have to go on break now, and we will be back in 10 minutes. Please, 10 minutes sharp, we're going to be back. 10 minutes. We're going to take a decision on this policy, but we're going to leave that on to when we come back, when we've taken the other policies.
Let me just make a quick announcement, please, that we have a survey.